Okay, today is Wednesday, December 6th. It is 7 p.m. This is the Riverside School District 96 Committee of the Whole meeting at Ames School. Kathy, can you call the roll?
Okay, Mr. Bersati?
Present.
Ms. Kalick? Here. Mr. Hunt?
Here.
Ms. Claps?
Here.
And Mr. Muirhead?
Here.
And a quorum is present.
All right, Kathy, do we have any public comment tonight?
We do not.
Okay. With that, I will welcome School Principal Todd Gearman for a welcome.
Thank you very much. Good evening, District 96 Board of Education. Dr. Ryan Toy, welcome back to Ames Elementary School. Put together a quick little overview of some cool stuff going on here at Ames. So I had some friends that wanted to say hi to you. These are our dolphin trainers here at Ames. This is our staff. This is Halloween 2023, so we went as dolphin trainers. We didn't intend on having two dolphin mascots, but one is the school's and the other one went out and bought one, so we have two dolphins. Hula hoops, wetsuits. Mr. Becker over here has the goggles, and he has some fish to feed the dogs. It was a lot of fun. So that was Halloween. After that, you go right into fall, and I don't know, Mr. Vasco wasn't raking the leaves or what's going on here, but our early learners were out there helping. So I was leaving actually to go to district leadership, and I see this, I'm like, oh my, it's adorable. So it's all on the Instagram page, but they were helping to, show that Dolph Wave being respectful, responsible, safe, and keeping the lawn clean at Ames. Veterans Day program, a hit, wonderful program, one of my favorite programs that we have here in District 96. So we had a wonderful turnout for that, and our students did a phenomenal job. Did some hydroponics gardening already with our 5th grade students. Usually do this in the spring. This year we moved it up to the fall, so we grew our own lettuce. Then from there, we had the lettuce, but you can't forget the cucumbers. So went in the teacher's lounge and got some cucumbers together. What do you do after you make, we're starting to make salad for the 5th graders, so we had to clean up the teacher's lounge. And then the students got the chance to get together and make a salad for the 5th grade classmates. Mrs. Allen leads all this. She's one of our advanced learning teachers, and we even had some homemade salad dressing to go with it. It is delicious. If you ever had, I need to save you guys some next time. Hydroponic lettuce is amazing. I mean, it's the freshest thing you will ever taste. It's probably like a farmer's market type of thing. It is incredible. It's unbelievable. So, and then we do a lot with SEL here at Ames, and each month has a different SEL pillar that we celebrate. In November happened to be emotion management. And these are, again, some early learners. Now this is in front of a crowd of 460 students. So our early learners come up here and they were talking about their emotions. So sad, happy, scared. They did a wonderful job. So proud of them. So you're looking at 3- and 4-year-olds presenting in front of, with staff, probably about 500 people. So really, really cool event. And then twice a month, every other week, we have our Ames School Spirit Day. And it's very competitive here at Ames. So we have 4 trophies to give out. We give it to our top 4 classrooms. So you may have seen, if you're an Ames parent, you might have seen your own children's picture here. But this is Mrs. Quistala's class, and trophy right there in the center. A nice celebration of our school spirit. And I just want to thank you for letting me take just this brief moment to share the great things we're doing here at Ames, and appreciate having you here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, are there any proposed changes to the agenda for tonight? Thinking these first 2 things should be pretty quick to get to DLA, I think. So, okay.
Actually, we're going to go with EL first.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking those probably, yeah, okay, that's fine. All right, so let's move into Education Committee. So, Ms. Kalick, I'll hand it over to you.
I'm going to turn it over to Angela. We're going to have a discussion presentation about our EL department. I didn't see you, I'm sorry. I was like, I see Angela. Vertically challenged. Sorry, it's okay. I mean, Good evening, everybody. Alex Govia Lopez is one of our EL teachers in the district. She teaches at Central Elementary School. But she also helps me a lot with overseeing the different pieces of the EL department. And so Alex is sitting with me tonight to talk about our current reality with our English learners as well as where we hope to go with our English learning departments. So with that, we'll go ahead and start.
First of all, good evening, and thank you so much on behalf of the entire EO department, the staff. I want to thank you for allowing me to come and present tonight a little about our department. Like Angela said, my name is Alejandra Lopez, and I've been fortunate to be here for 10 years now. So I'm very passionate about our program that we have and very proud of it. So I would like to start off by explaining what the definition of an English language learner, and you will hear me refer as ELs. It couldn't be education without acronyms, correct? So ELs. And this is actually the definition that is used by the State Board of Education. So an EL student is any student in pre-K through 12th grade whose home language background is another language other than English, and whose proficiency in English, and when we're looking at 4 domains, we're looking at speaking, listening, reading, and writing, they're not proficient or at state or have met the state requirements that to be considered proficient in English. So if we go to the next slide, you're wondering, well, how do we identify EL students? This all starts at the registration. So per state requirements, the state has a form that parents have to fill out. It's called a home language survey, and there's 2 questions on this form. One of the questions is, do you speak, or does your household speak another language other than English? And then they have to check off yes or no, and then they have to indicate what language. And then the second question is, does your child speak another language other than English at home? And then again, they have to identify yes, no, and which language. If any of those 2 questions are checked off, per state requirements, we have to screen the student to see their English language proficiency. And that is through state-approved screeners. I listed the state-approved screeners on the screen there, and the reason we have different ones is that it depends on the grade level they're at. So we do have quite a bit. So after we've identified students, we sent a letter home, either a permission slip or a do not qualify form. So either way, parents know what the students got on the screeners and whether they qualify for service or not. There, we also indicate what type of model we have, which brings me to this slide. We have currently 3 EL program models that we use here at District 96. The first model that I will be talking about is the full-time transitional bilingual education. We call it TBE. This model, through this model, we provide bilingual services for students that qualify. So any student that does qualify, that means that we provide actual native language instruction in the language that we qualify to actually provide services for. Which the little side note that I have at the bottom is, well, how do we decide that we have a TBE program that we're actually going to provide native language instruction? The state has a magic number of 20. So if we have 20 or more students whose home language is the same, we have to provide native language instruction.
20 at a certain school?
20 at a center, yes. So we look at every center individually. And then once we hit that magic number, like we like to call it in the EL world, then we have to provide native language instruction. I do want to say that it's a little bit different here at Riverside, just because our demographics are like different from like Cicero and Berwyn, where we can actually have self-contained classrooms. So our TBE program here, we still provide the native language instruction, but it's not a whole day like it would be in other districts. And just that because we do have numbers, but we don't have enough numbers to have a self-contained classroom. With this model, services have to be provided by a bilingual endorsed teacher and who have passed the test in their native language. So here at District 96, the language that we do meet the 20 threshold for is Spanish. And we'll talk a little bit about what schools actually offer those services.
And we have bilingual certified teachers, 1 at Central, which is Alex, 2 at Ames, and 1 at Hauser.
And then in addition to providing native language instruction, we are still to provide, obviously, services so that they can continue with their English language acquisition. and making sure that their academic vocabulary, because some of our students do have like the basic communication, like the language to communicate, but is that academic language. Although the last few years that has shifted a lot, and that's because we've had an influx of newcomers, which we'll be talking about shortly. So this is the TBE program.
What
Now,
changed? The basic language? Like there's no basic language? Is that the change that you're talking about?
no, the change is that now we still have Spanish, but the change is that now we've had an influx of newcomers that are coming. They're Spanish speakers. We do have
okay.
Yes,
All right.
and that's what's the change that
Gotcha, okay.
that we're talking about. Then we have what we call a part-time transitional bilingual education program, a TBE. I don't like the terminology because whenever you see part-time and full-time, you're automatically thinking about the time, but it's not about the time. The only difference between part-time transitional bilingual education is that once a student has acquired English, or they're getting closer, not acquire English, but getting closer, then they don't need as much support in their native language. So then native language instruction then is reduced, and we're now providing just the support in the English. That still does have to be provided by a bilingual endorsed teacher, because that doesn't mean that the student does not need the native language support. So it's still used, but just as needed at this point. I know it's a lot. I hope it makes sense. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. And then both services are provided through what we call a push-in or pull-out model. So push-in is that we would have the teacher go into the classroom, provide services there, and then the pull-out model is where we work along the teachers, the classroom teacher, to make sure, one, that they're not missing on core instruction, and that they get their services, especially like the Spanish, they have to be provided in a pull-out service in a small group. So the last few years, we've done a little bit less of the push-in and more of the pull-out due to the needs of our students, which I'll be talking about. It's just hard to be able to provide some of the services in the push-in. And even if we're doing a disservice to the kids because some of them need more support than just us pushing it into the classroom. With that said, then we have TPI, the Transitional Program of Instruction. So what about all the students that don't speak Spanish but still need support? The state just calls it TPI services, where the state is more lenient. It doesn't say that we have to have a teacher that shares the native language with the student. We're just providing the services using the best methodology to make sure that the students acquire English and provide it through that. And again, it's through a push-in and pull-out model. Which then brings us to the next slide, what program models we have at each building. So currently, Ames was actually like the founders of TBE, I guess, because they were the very first ones to have a TBE program here at District 96. They have both models, the full-time and the part-time, in a TPI. Central came second. They have a full-time TBE and part-time as well in a TPI. And then we get to Hauser. Hauser currently right now is in transition. We are now at 24 students that speak Spanish. So we are in the transition phase to actually have a TBE program there. And we've been lucky enough already to meet with April and Chris and Christina, who's our Hauser EL teacher there. And we've been talking about how will we implement the program, how would it look, what would we need, because it is a huge undertaking, especially at the junior high and looking at the scheduling. How would that look, and how would it meet the needs of our students? And then up to this point, we've just had a TPI program there. But we are in transition because we're at 24 at the end of last year. So just so you know, the state doesn't, like if we meet, last year we were already at 20, but the state does not have us change the model in the middle of the school year. It's till the following next year, then knowing that we have the numbers that we are to then take that in consideration and put something into place. But with Hauser, we really want to make sure it's a program and the services are done well. We want to make sure that we have a curriculum that's in place, that is a Spanish curriculum, that would be something that would be very comparable to what you would see in the ELA block. Then we come to Blythe, who currently right now has a TPI program. And as of Monday, when I met with the department, the teacher there shared with me, we're at 16 Spanish speakers, and we just added 2 more as of Monday. So yes, so we're now at 18 Spanish speakers at Blythe. If the numbers, and once I'll show, I do have information about the data of just like enrollment in every building. If this continues, we're foreseeing that Blythe will be requiring TB services as well. And then we have Hollywood, who just got CPI, and as of history, we're looking, they just kind of fluctuate. So we're at TPI there. We are very lucky, District 96 is very lucky that we have an array of languages represented. I'm not gonna read all of them, but we do. There's some, they're not even listed, it's just that they're not considered EL students, but we do have other students that have other languages. And we try to, we embrace it, and we really, really encourage the students to maintain their native language and to use it. We've been lucky enough that because we are now representing so many languages, the parents come with those languages as well. We've been using, the department got pocket translators. So like the offices and teachers are now carrying these pocket translators to be able to communicate with the students, especially our newcomers, and when the secretaries are agreed, like we have families coming into the offices, then there's a way to communicate.
And we've seen students just light up
Yeah.
when you're able to understand what they're saying, they're able to understand what you're saying. So adding the translators to the classes, to the schools, has been a huge benefit to our families and our students.
Does that look like a phone?
It's like a small little pod, and
Okay.
there's 2 buttons. So then you just click on the one, you speak to it, and it will translate. It'll translate in time.
Okay.
And then, I mean, it has this little it's not perfect,
Yeah.
but it does do the job. And we just had a new student that started from Jordan this year at Central, and the first day he came, we were trying to communicate. I'm like, wait, we have the pocket translator. Let me go run for it. Let me go get it. And we got it, and we spoke to it, and his eyes did oh my gosh, to be able to hear and understand what we were saying.
Yeah.
So we are utilizing those, and it is making a huge a difference. Again, it's not like the best, but it is a little bit of something, and we really do appreciate it. And the parents, they're so appreciative just that we're trying to communicate with
Yeah.
them.
There was a girl that joined last year in my daughter's class, and I think she might have just been using her phone. That's why I was asking. But that was amazing because everybody could communicate with her, and I think she came over to our house and a lot of the texting apps will do translation
Yes.
through the app. I was like, had no idea. I'd never had to use it before, but that's been phenomenal. So I've seen that, and it is amazing.
Yeah, it's like if you have an Apple phone, it does have that new function. It's a translating
it's already
component
built
on
in?
it. It's
Okay.
already embedded in it. Honestly, if you're not looking for it, you don't even know it's there, but it's there, and it's really cool because you just click on it, you speak, you put the language, and it will just shoot it out, and then you're able to go back and forth.
No.
And the pocket translators actually do also have it in writing, so
Oh.
they could either read it or they can just hear it.
Interesting.
So this brings me to this slide. So like I said, I've been fortunate enough to be working here for the last 10 years. So the data is from when I started working of what I have. And this is our numbers of ELs since I started here. And if you see there's a dip between 2020 and 2021, that is because we did have a few parents who, due to health reasons and concerns, they did not want to bring their child in to be screened. So we didn't actually, some students never got screened at this point for EO services because the state was saying that it had to be in person. We cannot do it through Zoom because of just the test and the nature of the test. So we did have, or other parents decided to homeschool. So, but then after that, we have had the significant trend where we just kind of see it that it's going up, which brings me to and before that, we are currently at 140 students. 16 of those are newcomers. And what a newcomer is a student that's coming from another country who is the first time in American school system. and whose primary language is another language other than English. And usually we can consider a student like a newcomer for the first 3 years that they're in the country. But then I also do want to point out that while we do have newcomers, we do have students who come from households where the primary language is another language other than English. And their first exposure to English is actually here at school. So we do have some kindergartners that even though they're not newcomers, they need the same amount of support that a newcomer would, because they're essentially learning English as well. But their situations are just a little bit different than our newcomers. And historically, we've had about, when I first started here, we had 1 newcomer in the whole entire district. And ever since then, we've had more and more. And this is like the year that we've had the most, where we've had 16 students that are newcomers.
Just out of curiosity, are they primarily, or at least a large portion, some of the migrants that have been coming here?
Yes,
From,
we've
Venezuela
had
primarily, or?
Yeah, we have had some that are the migrants that have been coming, and then we've just had
We've had Ukrainian.
Ukrainian.
families coming
We did
also.
have Ukrainian families, and then this is the year like we've had a students from the student from Jordan. So we've had an array, but yes, we do have some that are coming from like with the whole migrant situation that's going on. And then studies do show that takes about 5 to 7 years for a student, well, anyone that's learning another language to actually become proficient with the proper support. Now, it takes 7 to 10 years for them to be considered proficient without the proper support. So the reason I'm bringing that up is just that as we're looking at our numbers, the majority of our numbers now include newcomers. So before, historically, District 96 had a really huge exit rate of students. Usually we would exit students around grade 3. Now we're not seeing that. It's not because we're not instructing them the same way, it's just that they're taking longer. We're talking about students that now need to learn English and also they're also getting their academic needs met. So it's a little bit different. And then here we have the number of ELs at Ames. Now, you were like, well, Alex is going down. But the number in 224 does not reflect the change. So even though the numbers at Ames is lower, at Ames, we currently have 31 of the students, 6 are newcomers, and 5 are students who only speak another language at home. And a lot of the needs of the newcomers are also medical. And yes, and then there's a lot, and some of our newcomers are also coming with trauma. So the needs, even though the numbers are smaller than in 2017, in 2017, when I first started here, we were looking at students who, they were exposed to English. They were born here. They were maybe second generation, not first generation. And now when we're looking at the numbers here at Ames, even though we're looking at students who is their first time they've ever been in an American school system. And again, they're coming with huge medical needs and trauma.
And it's across all grade levels. It's not like
they're
first
just
time
not in kindergarten.
Right.
And then we also have to look at the different. They come from different socioeconomic statuses, wherever they're coming from. Their situations are very different. Others have had schooling. Others have had fragmented schooling. So now we're looking at not only learning another language, but also trying to bridge the academic gap even in their own native language.
Yep.
So that's at Ames. Our numbers at Blythe, as you can see, pretty self-explanatory. They're just every year, they've been going up.
Is some of this because of the move to the 2-section school? Is that why that's on, or does that not have anything to do with it?
I really, to be completely honest, I don't know if it has to do with that, but we have just keep seeing the trend. And when I started, it was a really small number of students at Blythe, but it has increased. And as you can see, it's over 20, but the majority are Spanish speakers.
Yeah. And that's a 4x increase over 5 years. I mean, that's huge.
I don't have the raw numbers in front of me, but I'm
Yeah,
sure,
but if you need,
given a
like-
larger population, it does then.
Yeah, because we're putting
increase
more
the-
kids, or
Right.
moving, directing more kids toward that
Exactly.
school. is what I'm
And this isn't percentages, this is actual
Actual
numbers.
That's
Numbers,
actual
yeah.
numbers, yeah. And then we have Central, again, at Central, we stayed pretty, like steady. But again, the numbers at Central do not reflect, because we also have, currently, right now, from the 26 students, we have 3 newcomers and 3 students that are in a situation where I said that English is the first, they're actually learning English for the first time as well. And again, here at Central, we're dealing with situations where we are having students that also have special education needs. And how do we meet those needs when we don't have special education teachers that have a bilingual endorsement? And in order for them to meet their needs, we need to provide them in their native language, or even to assess them. So that we're in a very, it's a very new situation for us. But when we're looking at students, and again, newcomers, there's trauma, there's some of the stories we hear from the students of just their experiences. It is heartbreaking to hear.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that we first have to meet their social emotional needs as well, for them to be even to access the academics. And then Hollywood, like I said, usually it's okay. Hollywood goes back and forth. That's one of our buildings where it's just kind of there. And then we have Hauser. Again, you can kind of just see. And now with Hauser, the majority of our EL students that we see here are students with IEPs that haven't met the state criteria, because there's other factors also that they've not yet been able to meet that criteria. And then the newcomers that we have, they're probably their first, second, or third year here, and they're not going to be exiting soon. So those numbers are not going to be changing anytime soon. And I just do want to mention how all these numbers do feed into the school report card. They do have a huge influence on the report card, because they take a percentage of how many students are exiting, how many students are meeting on the IR testing, and they take all that and then put it into to make our school report card.
And so that school report card piece is the English learners' progress to proficiency on our school or state report card. And it's also looking at what progress students are making towards proficiency. So if we're not able to provide adequate levels of support to our students, then they're not going to make adequate progress towards proficiency, and that's going to impact our school report card.
So every year, every student has a percentage or point system that they have to meet in order for them to receive full credit, and then for us as a district or that school to get full credit to see. And that's how they calculate if we're meeting the needs of our students.
So currently, I'm going to start in the middle of this slide.
Yeah.
What it looks like currently in District 96, we have TBE services that we're not able to provide due to our full-time equivalency, our staffing. We would like to be more, so you saw with the TBE program full-time, it's a pull-out model, but it's hard to provide those pull-out services for the students who are supposed to have them when we only have the 2 teachers covering all the services needed at Central, the 2 teachers and actually it's 1 TBE teacher at Central, 2 teachers at Ames, and then 1 teacher at Hauser who's covering all of Hauser needs. So you saw the numbers for Hauser, and we have 1 teacher there covering all those needs, including the TBE.
And if I can just chime
Yes.
in, not only that, but there's also the outplaced students. So if we have students that are outplaced but do qualify for services, we as a district are required to provide their minutes. So we did have last year where we would have staff members, and still this year, where they would travel to where they were outplaced to be able to provide the minutes.
So that would be a student like in a LADSI program or a
Okay.
student in one of our private day school placements for children with significant
And we're
special
responsible
education
to access that, test them, and to monitor them while during their academic career.
And it's a state requirement that we have to report that we're doing it, when we did it, how we did it. their scores. Newcomer students currently, not all of our newcomers are getting the adequate amount of minutes that they need. We have students, as Alex had mentioned, with higher language proficiency, or students with higher language proficiency are also impacted, because when we're devoting all the time we have of our current teachers to those with high needs, those students who are close to exiting, they're not getting the services they need because all the minutes are being devoted to the higher need students.
And some of the students are really close to meeting the threshold to actually exit. They just need that little extra push, but we're not able to. We're providing and we're doing as much as we can, but is it adequate minutes? I'll be the first one to say no.
And our gen ed teachers don't have enough support to meet the needs of the students when we're looking at our newcomers. So we have these students who are coming in who do not speak any English, or families do not speak any English, and they're calling on our EL teachers to come to the classroom and help with this. And it could be just simple things as helping them unpack their backpack, or helping them get ready for the day, or knowing which book to pull out when we're starting English. But that's pulling away then from other services for other students when, like, Alex comes out of the class to help another gen ed teacher. And it's not meeting the needs adequately of any of the students, but also the newcomers too. Currently, our parent support is a little bit challenging because we are on time constraints. Alex receives a stipend for helping out with our EL department, like some of the clerical pieces of the EL department. But that stipend also covers time for her, it's supposed to cover time for her to be a liaison for our EL families. But because of our increased needs, she's now teaching full-time and isn't able to be that liaison. Most recently, she had to pull from services from Time from Kids to go help a family who was trying to register in a different district. They're a McKinney-Vento family. They understood they could stay here, but they were like 4 houses away from this other school in Cicero, and they were getting a runaround from Cicero. And between Alex and Nora and Pete Gatz, we weren't getting any assistance. So Alex took the time as a liaison to go to the school in Cicero with this parent to have the conversation there, so that they weren't able to give her the runaround, so that we could get that student enrolled in the school closer to their home. But that's the type of thing that was normally built into Alex's schedule, but now we just don't have the time to do because she's providing services.
And with some of our newcomers, and not even just our newcomers, just some of their parents, it's the first time that they're navigating the Illinois school system. So their experience of schooling might be different from what some of us are used to, or what the actual school system is, and things as knowing how to call their child in. Those are little things that I would help them with. And they have my number, so they'll call me, or even forms that go, or I will constantly get emails in the morning saying my child will not be in school today, but because there's that language barrier, they just feel more comfortably emailing me and say, can you let them know that my child will not be here because so-and-so. Then I just let them know. Or doing the sign-up genius for report cards. So little things like that, I have helped them with it. So it's just navigating with the school.
Yeah.
It's hard enough when you grow up here and speak the language.
Yeah. And then a lot of parents don't know their rights.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, with the case with the parent that I had to help.
And again, native parent, like people that grew up here don't know that stuff.
Yeah.
So like I completely hear what you're saying. Yeah.
So our needs, we need and are required by state law to have a full-time TV service at Hauser. We're working on that model. Alex and I are working with April May, Chris Harbalis, and Christina Castaneda to develop a model that's going to provide that full-time TV service to our 6th through 8th graders who should be receiving it. And we're going to need a Spanish curriculum. As Alex mentioned, we need a Spanish curriculum that's going to be comparable to the English language arts they're learning in the full-time class, English class.
And in addition, hopefully be able to provide a newcomer block where we have newcomer students actually get the support needed to learn the language. So it wouldn't be like, let's take them out during math or just during this 20-minute block that we have for them to acquire the language, but actually have a newcomer block, and where we can actually, the teacher there would be able to provide the services to that student so that they're acquiring the language, but also still making sure that they're meeting their academic gains in their native language.
And at Hauser, ELA and math blocks are 80 minutes. Science, social studies, and encores are 40 minutes. So this newcomer block would be an 80-minute block of instruction that would be scheduled into their day. And that's what we're working on and finalizing how that will be scheduled.
And there will be requirements, so there will be assessments to see who qualifies for the services. It wouldn't just be like any student would go into the, just essentially it would be a Spanish language arts block. So we would have to have like a special like protocol, just like we do for the elementary school. So we don't just have, just because the students speak Spanish doesn't mean that they qualify for the full-time services. They're not being taught native language. They do have to meet, we have a screener to check their fluence, their speaking and understanding of Spanish, and they have to actually test as proficient to be able to, because it's not, the whole purpose of a TBE program is to promote and ensure biliteracy, to be able to read and write and to be biliterate in both languages, not for a student to learn Spanish. So we do screen them, and then that's how they qualify for the full-time TBE services.
We also need to provide the proper support and minutes for our students and general education teachers, for our newcomer students and the general education teachers who have them. We need more parental support. We need to, need to better address our outplaced students. As Alex mentioned, we are currently servicing the students that have not denied services, but we could do a better job of that, of providing that support. And then we need professional learning for our general education staff. Population is changing, the needs are changing, and our staff members need to just be better equipped with how we can work with our students so that they're successful, the staff members are successful, but so also our students are successful too.
And even the cultural differences and how that does impact schooling and how students learned. And again, I go back to like our student from Jordan. The teacher did come up and it's like, well, I've noticed that the student holds the paper differently, but that's because the way they read and write, it's not, it's different, it's the opposite. Yeah. So little things like that we would be able to provide to our staff, that there are different things. In some cultures, it's disrespectful to look at someone in the eye when you're speaking to them. So we look down, and here in the United States, it's respectful, like to actually make eye contact. So just little things and nuances that would help understand our changes in demographics.
So what would be optimal? That Hauser would provide a full-time, part-time services with TBE and have a newcomer block. Our newcomer students would receive their adequate minutes in Spanish and English, as well as adequate minutes for all of our students, regardless of their proficiency, so that we are addressing all of our students' needs. Optimal would be with parent support, that we're able to schedule time to provide support. We're being proactive, right? So we have always said, if you have questions, reach out to Alex. She has cards. As she said, they have her phone number, they have her email, and we've always said, reach out if you have questions. But whether you are someone who speaks a different language than English, or you're an English speaker, you don't know what you don't know. So it's hard to know what questions to ask. So what would be optimal is being able to have set times where we can just reach out to families and say, parent-teacher conferences are coming up. Let me walk you through how to schedule your child. Or we can say, there's going to be a program for Veterans Day. Do you have someone that served in the service in your country? And be able to be proactive and invite our families in. And do check-ins with our families, and just as Alex said, support our families navigating the Illinois school system. And then optimal would be being able to provide adequate minutes for our students who are placed in day schools or LADSI or like any of our outplaced students. So what would that look like? What does that mean? Currently, our staffing is, we have 2 full-time teachers at Ames. As I mentioned, they are bilingual endorsed. We have 1 full-time teacher at Blythe. We have 1.6 full-time equivalents at Central. So Alex is full-time at Central, and then Molly Quiros is 0.6 at Central, and then travels to Hollywood and provides services at Hollywood, so that's at 0.4. And then we have 1 teacher at Hauser. Our outplaced students are covered by Ames and Blythe, are currently covered by Ames and Blythe teachers. And that's, honestly, that's piecemealed together. We're just like, okay, who's got 30 minutes in their schedule? And one student is virtual, right?
One is, through Zoom, virtually, and the other student, they are buzzing back to here. It's actually Ames. They buzzed him to Ames and gets his services here. But last year, the bus, because of the needs, students cannot be bused, so then that takes 30 minutes of travel time from our schedule to be able to have a teacher actually travel. And we try to do it strategically where it's at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day, so then we're not adding.
it's only 30
So
minutes.
it's only 30 minutes that we're using. But if parents, we do have parents that have said yes to services, and they're only receiving 1 day a week services.
So what we would like to request, or what we are requesting, and what we are asking of the board, is an increase in staffing for our EL department. And we're looking at an increase in staffing of 2.5 FTE. And what that would look like then is Ames would move to 2.5 FTE, Blythe would stay at 1, Central would be 2 full-time teachers servicing, Hollywood would be 0.5, Hauser would be a 1.5 FTE, and Outplaced would be a dedicated 0.5. And then we would have Alex have dedicated 0.5 time for the parent liaison outreach piece. So we would like to hire a full-time bilingual endorsed teacher this year. We're hurting this year. It's been a struggle to be able to make sure we're meeting, as we said, not only our students' needs, but our staff needs. And so being able to post and hire for 1 full-time position this year would do wonders to help us. And that 1.0 FTE would go to Hauser to help out with Hauser, and so increase Hauser to 1.5, and then the other 0.5 of that new position would be for our outplaced students so that we could fully support them. Then we would post for next year for 1.5 FTE to add on to that 1.0 that we would hire for this year. So that additional 1.5, 1.0 of that FTE would be split between Ames and Hollywood. So now Ames would be up to 2.5, Hollywood would be at 0.5, and then Central, that way Central's staffing could stay at Central for 2.0. But because we're looking at that 0.5 EL coordinator piece, we would need that extra 0.5 to cover the classes that Alex wouldn't be teaching during the time she was coordinating. So we're hoping that explaining where we've been, where we're at, and where we'd like to be, we're hoping that this presentation has clearly explained that so that you can see why we're asking for an increase in our EL department staffing and show the need for the increase in the EL department staffing. And with that, if you have any questions or comments that you'd like to share with us, please do.
Sounds like our student enrollment hasn't increased since you've made this slide,
Yes.
which was, I'm guessing, not that long ago. Is
Tonight is
this?
the first time I heard that we
Yeah,
had
you seem very surprised.
That was the first time the staff member came. We had the EL department on Monday, and she came up to me and she said, "So Alex, so I was going to tell you, we have 2 new students that I just screened and qualified." I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, let me add." It's now 16, we're now 18, and that's how it's been this year. Where all of a sudden I get emails from Nancy at registration saying, "Heads up, we have a new student. They don't speak English. They're starting this day." And I feel like every week we've had at least a new student starting with us. And I know it's a lot. It's a lot to take. There's a lot. The EL world, it's a lot. So I hope I answered questions. Do you have any questions? Feel
I
free.
have to comment. I think the presentation was great. It definitely, you explained it well, and it definitely demonstrates the need, at least in my opinion. So I definitely appreciate the information. I'm glad that you were able to give that to us tonight. I did have a question. With some of these levels, like crossing a threshold of 20, I wonder at any point, is there any state assistance or federal assistance that kicks in for some of these positions, or?
We do receive some grant money from the state for our English learning department. We do utilize that.
Yes.
That's how we actually purchase the translators. It also helps provide professional development. It provides resources. That grant money provides resources. So we do receive some money from the state because we have a certain number of students, and we work with other districts around us. We're in a consortium with other districts around us to ensure that we're able to get that state money.
So the state does provide, depending on the type of service that they're
Yeah.
getting, is a certain amount of money that we get for the student to support the
And I
program.
figured that would be a question. Michaela Miller had shared with me that our Title III money comes in at $13,000, which is a
Small
drop in
amount.
the bucket compared to what we're just talking about in terms of, you know, the level of support and assistance we want for our students. There's more in Title I, but that's not just EL. So
Right.
that's a lot of other, you know, just ways of supporting students who are at a low income level.
I have one question. Well, first, thank you for all you do. I've heard, when I met with Martha and Angela, I heard a lot about what you do. Thank you very much. I had cousins who came here as refugees in the early 90s, and you had mentioned something about some of the kids coming. I mean, I can imagine the children coming from migrant families are probably dealing with trauma as well. How do we provide social work for them? Is that translated? Like how are we helping them in that way? Are we helping them in that way?
Currently, right now, due to just the staffing, we're not able to provide. We're doing our best we can. The majority comes from us as the EL teachers. And then also trying to talk to the general education teachers about like something as simple as for classroom management, for example, turning off the lights to that shows that we need to calm down. When you're looking at some of our students, turning off the lights, it's a trigger.
Yeah.
So it's just little things. So to answer your question, we currently are. We're trying our best.
We're
but
not doing
it's-
as much as we
would
would like
could.
to.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. That's so hard.
It is.
And it's gotta like fluctuate all the time depending on.
Yes, and it's very different, and it's different from families.
Yeah.
So every family has a different story and a different way that their experiences are very different. So we can't lump everyone in the same category because they all have. But regardless, I was just at the bilingual directors meeting. That's the PDH I go to every year, and they were talking about how regardless of what their experience is, just coming to a new country is a culture shock, and you have to learn the different norms and trying to adjust. And they were saying how in nature, human nature is you're going to just kind of either fluctuate where you're going to assimilate. They're like, I'm just going to leave everything behind. I'm going to, my roots, my culture and everything and just assimilate. Or others will just be like, I'm not, you're grasping on and you're not letting go of that. And our job is to make sure that they're right in the middle, that they're able to find a balance and be able to take both in and embrace it.
Yeah.
But it is a huge undertaking. That's even training that I will be completely honest. I think that our department needs to go to, and they did give us a book that I've been reading about, and it's very wide, like eye-opening, because it is the very first time I've had newcomers in the past. But the amount of newcomers coming and just like the different experiences is very different from something I'm used to from the past.
Yeah.
I guess just thank you for your work and for a beautiful presentation. It very clearly articulated that there is a deep need in the district for this. I guess like the comment that I have on it all is just it feels like we're behind, right? Like it feels like these students are currently in a situation where we're doing them a disservice and we shouldn't be in this spot, right? Like we need to get ahead of these problems to the extent that we can. And I understand that there's sort of this influx of need and it's increased pretty dramatically in a short amount of time. But like, I think as a board member, I just want this to be presented to me in a really proactive way when there is a need, because we are a well-funded district, and it's very clear from the performance of these students on the IAR tests and their proficiency that their growth isn't where it needs to be. And so I'm fully supportive of your need, and I would just encourage you to continue to be proactive in reaching out to the board and raising it when there is a need, because we shouldn't be, underserving this population.
So I'll piggyback off of that to go back to my comment. This has changed by somewhere between 2 and 4. I kind of lost track of all the numbers since you made it. Is this enough?
Yeah, and I'll just echo on, or say something too that, we've been talking about this really all year. Kind of to your point of, are we behind? I will tell you that this is certainly a commentary on society and what's happening in many, many, many school districts. I agree we need to be adequate, and then we need to be better than adequate, right? You know, that's sort of our mission, that tends to be how we do things. I will tell you, we've talked very candidly that even if we post this tomorrow, and actually I would like to propose that we post this tomorrow, even though this is not an action team meeting, you can take action on it at the December 20th meeting, but if there is clear enough direction and consensus that this is where we need to go, and I think that's what we're hearing here, is that let's at least get this posting up. I will tell you, I'm not usually a pessimist, but EL certified teachers are not, they are in high demand, because this is happening not just in Riverside District 96.
Yeah.
So we often feel very, very fortunate that we have a good pay schedule, and we are an attractive district in regard to just our location and a great place to work. But this, you know, there's no guarantee that we find somebody in 2 weeks either.
And just like a
Hopefully,
little,
yes,
like
but-
just as of last week, because I'm part of the West Cook 40 directors meeting, and we email each other any kind of needs. Oak Park got an influx of 40 newcomers, and they were asking for so I'm just saying when we're talking about bilingual teachers, it is a high need, and when we're talking about conferences, people are poaching each other, they're trying to get their bilingual teachers to come because it's a high need.
And when we looked at, you asked, is this enough? Alex and I played with numbers before I even brought final numbers to Martha. And we really want to be fiscally responsible, obviously. And we don't want to put the board in a position to make tough decisions, right? One of the things that I am concerned about also with hiring is that 0.5, because you hear how much of a demand it is for this role. Not a lot of people are going to want a 0.5 position. It's going to take a certain person who's just like, I have other things going on, or I also want to be at home more, to do that 0.5 position. So could we use 3.0 and use that extra 0.5? Absolutely. But we also wanted to make sure we are fiscally responsible. So I know my memo says 2 to 2.5. With Martha's blessing, I would like to look at 3.0 FTE, because I think that, to your question, it's not just meeting, it's doing that meeting and then some to put us above, as Selena's saying.
So I appreciate the fiscal responsibility, but I agree with everything Selena said. We need to meet the needs of the students, and if that's 3 people instead of 2.5, and it costs us an extra half a salary, it's a drop in the bucket compared to everything else that we do. So I want to make sure that the students are getting what they need, because it feels like we're in a bit of a crunch right here. Like we weren't, and then we were, and then now it's like, okay, what do we do about it? And it happened so fast.
And is it going to keep happening? I mean, I've been through this presentation. We've talked a lot. We've talked some this year. We met with the whole department. Alex is outstanding, and the whole department really is outstanding, and so caring, and so compassionate, and so skillful. But it's like, we just heard, right? It's changing literally overnight. So I like the 3.0. We hadn't even really talked about that. But yeah.
Sorry.
Especially
No,
when you
quite
get
right.
it easier.
It's like, you realize listening again and hearing you speak, it's like, okay.
And seeing the
this-
change overnight, because
Yeah.
when we did meet, Martha and I met with the department as a whole a couple months ago, and Alex had said, we're 4 kids off at Blythe from being a TBE school. And I remember Martha saying, oh, so that could be a couple of years. And we're all like, no. I did not realize it really could be like next year that we're transitioning Blythe as well. I think I feel more comfortable with the 3.0
And I think
process.
that really resonated with me tonight too, because I've been reading about this, and not like super local, but like you've seen with the bigger cities, this influx and the problem they're having. And I have been wondering, how are we impacted? Because I've seen new students, but I just didn't see the whole picture, right? So this was really helpful there, but I was not even considering like the special need, like the just because that child needs special needs, or like the trauma piece of it. I've seen the pictures, like I can only imagine. But like then you said the special education teachers also need bilingual certificates. I mean, man, that's a special set of skills to find, right?
It's a unicorn.
Yeah.
It's a unicorn in our field to be able to have EL bilingual. Yes.
Yeah.
We did look,
we
we just looked at how many of our staff members are endorsed. So it's a secondary endorsement that not many, but, teachers will get, right? So I think we have 22 staff members, including our EL department, that have a EL endorsement on their teaching certificate, which is great. And it's great to sort of acknowledge that there are districts that will create cohorts for, all staff to get that endorsement, whether it's bringing university providers in or connecting with a local university. This idea, I think in Berwyn it might be a requirement that you have to be duly certified to get to be employed or to be considered. You'd certainly be more
That would make sense.
quickly
yeah.
considered
Yes.
For employment in a district where there's a very, very high bilingual or highly well population.
Yeah, they have different requirements.
So that
on
is the
some
kind
them,
of, it's some of the other things we started talking about, like, should we be incentivizing more teachers to get certified?
And so with those teachers who are certified, who are ESL endorsed, they're able to, we strategically, and you jump in if I say anything incorrect, we strategically place students in those teachers' classes, but they can't provide the full minutes because depending on the level of need. So like I think about one of our 5th grade teachers in the district is ESL endorsed. So we can strategically put kids in his class because he has the knowledge on best practices for teaching English learners. But as a 5th grade teacher, those kids are going to have some higher needs also. They may not be close to exiting. And so he can't provide the minutes for the pull-out services that we necessarily need. Where our early learners, all 3 of our early learner teachers are also ESL endorsed. They are providing some of the minutes because the level of need of our early learners is different. So they're able to provide the services, the minutes for our EL learners. So we do strategically place our students in the classes of teachers who are ESL endorsed, but they're not always able to provide the minutes that we need depending on the level of need of the students.
And ESL, English as a second language?
English as a second language.
Yes, thank you,
endorsement.
sorry.
Yeah.
The
Sorry.
terminology has changed over, like, there's ESL, ELL,
Yeah, it's
EL.
changed,
So
yeah.
it's
And
a lot
then
easier than
multilingual
Yeah, right,
learners,
right.
and then they didn't like
Reference to
multilingual
kind of-
learners,
yeah.
it was
Yeah.
language learners, so we've
Education,
yeah, just
acronyms.
a lot of acronyms. But yes, like Angela stated, we do have EL endorsed teachers, so we do try to strategically place students there. It doesn't always work out perfectly. We do have students that are move-ins or what's up, or other situations, but we do, and they have the strategies to be able to support. But then again, I will be the first one again to say that, do those minutes count? Absolutely, they do count if there's an EL endorsed teacher, but are they the best minutes and the actual support that they need, especially if you have a newcomer? It's not. Some of these students, and we have, instead of providing push-in services, like I said, in the last few years, we've been doing more pull-out than push-in because it's not what's best for the children.
So I think I saw in one of the slides as well that we're going to need probably next year a Spanish curriculum.
For Hauser, yes,
For
for the
Hauser, yes.
TBE program.
So I'm wondering, is that something that, for the current modules that we have for reading or for math, that those vendors provide something like that as an add-on, or how would that work?
So some vendors do provide that as an add-on. Our current junior high English language arts program does not provide it at the junior high level. They do now provide it, so we're doing an ELA review at the elementary level, and that's one of the things we're asking all the publishers are, do you have a solid EL curriculum? And so we've seen publishers who have a straight EL curriculum, and then some who are just like, oh, not really. So we're looking at that also as we look at ELA adoption, but our current 6-8 ELA program does not have a Spanish curriculum that matches what we have.
So currently our teacher at Hauser to provide support in native language instruction, she's translating or trying to find texts that we can supplement. So then she's teaching the skills. Currently, I do want to say that in the elementary buildings we do. So the Ready Gen does have a bilingual component, which we use in our TBE program. And the iReady Math does have Spanish components as well.
So I guess then, given the status of the current curriculum that we have, so then we'd have to have a standalone edition next year. And I'm just wondering, is that an expensive endeavor, or?
That's part of the transition process, and what we're working on with Ms. May, Mr. Harvalis, and Ms. Castaneda is what does that curriculum look like. It may not be purchasing a published curriculum. That would be the most efficient thing to do, But if we can't find the right one, that's where Alex is saying Christina's been working on. Are there texts that still teach the same skills but in native language? So we're still problem solving that and working on that. It wouldn't be a full-on curricular purchase if we did find a publisher that we liked. It wouldn't be the type of purchase that we would be doing for ELA. You're looking at it at a smaller level because it's to service the 20 to 30 students in the full TBE program at Hauser.
I guess I just sort of have a different take on this. I guess the whole thing is, I don't think it's a question of should we be doing it. It's like if we should do it, it's like, why aren't we doing this? And so I guess the way I'm looking at it is this is part of our mission. We have to do this. We just need to move forward. Fortunately, as like we all know, we're a very well-funded district. I guess for me, the discussion really is mute. We just do it. There's obviously a lot of details that we need to work out still. This is a fluid situation. It keeps moving. So, I mean, to Martha's point, I do think if there's consensus, I mean, obviously we're not hiring, but I do think we should post for at least one and get the process moving.
I wonder if we should post for all of them.
I wonder
And hope
the
for
same
the, I mean, I mean, just and hope, like, it's not, you know.
You just told me it might take 12 months to find
Yeah, right.
one, so.
Yeah.
I was
Right.
wondering the same thing.
Yeah.
And,
It opens the pool, it
Right.
gets people applying, there are sometimes like a new grad group that comes out of school in
Yeah.
December, so sometimes we could,
I mean, and
you don't really want to poach somebody, sorry, from another district in the middle of the year,
Right,
that's
right.
not really, there's not good integrity in that one, but yeah.
But I also say, to your point, I'd say let's just do the 3 because you're right. Half a person, especially given everything that's going on, we're going to need that.
Yeah.
And I was thank you, Dave, because I was thinking we'd kind of go around unless there were more questions or more conversation and just kind of give that take. And I was trying to think of what that recommended motion would look like next month. And I'm thinking you're asking for one, and then you're going to come back next year and ask for more. Why don't I just give you what you need now, and you figure out when you need it?
Right.
And if you need one now, do one. If you need one later, do it then. But like instead of having to come back to us, why don't we just give you that?
Like
whatever, 2
increase
or
the
3
EL
or-
department by
yeah.
3.0 FTE
Because I'm concerned about rapid
change.
influx of like unknown, just because we don't know. Just from what you've already told me tonight, like I don't want to be caught behind again. I guess that's what I'm thinking.
And typically, the board votes on when there are addition of positions, but then you also vote on the personnel report, the actual people hired. So, the other thing is, one thing to think about is if there's rapid change, like we hire the people and you're approving them when it's so-and-so for the position through
Yep.
the personnel. I always want you to know that there's an expansion of the budget that
Yep.
happens with all of this, obviously.
Oh, I understand that. But I guess the thing is, I look at it, it's like if we had like 100 new kids just show up,
Yeah,
even they're all English, like say everyone moved from like Oak Park to Riverside, and we have 100 new kids,
Yeah.
we've got to hire somebody
Yeah.
right away.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we don't really have a choice.
Yeah. And I also agree with your comment. This is our core mission.
Right.
Like this isn't where we should be like scraping for funds. So again, I appreciate the fiscal responsibility. Don't come ask me for 12
Right, yeah,
if you need
exactly.
3.
Right.
Well, and
But-
at the same time, and I completely agree, this is our core mission. At the same time, I wouldn't want to swamp folks if, before we came to the table tonight, if you were anticipating bringing one on board and we're suddenly saying, have 3, is that going to swamp people? Is that going to be too much to take in one bite? Or is that, oh no.
I may be speaking out of turn, but no, we'll be good.
She'll come to you for the extra support she needs.
We could find a way
Yeah.
to utilize.
That is a good question, though, because
Really.
rapid expansion can be problematic. So as long as you think you can handle it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I guess that's where that's why I was thinking, let's approve what you need, and then you figure out how to navigate it. I don't need you coming back to me 3-4 times for this. If
Thank you.
You've been very articulate on what you need, so.
Thank you so much on behalf of the whole entire department, which I'm pretty sure they're watching, and our kiddos,
And our
really,
staff.
and
Our
staff,
gen ed
even
staff.
gen ed staff. They really have been great, just navigating, and I wish we could give it more support. But now we will be able to give it more support. So really, muchas gracias for everything, because it really is. Thank you so much. It's gonna make a difference on our students.
Yeah, so I'll just restate that for clarity. We're giving you three postings, and then we'll go through the normal approval process as you need it, and we'll do it through the consent agenda. Martha's very good about informing us of those types of changes, so we'll know well before the vote and all that kind of stuff, so. Okay, and then
Thank
we'll
you.
approve those postings next, 2 weeks from now, but yeah, if it's that hard to
We'll have
find
that
them.
motion, we'll vote on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much. I haven't stopped smiling because I'm like, oh my God. So I can't wait to talk to the department about this.
Just
They
wait
are
till-
the
just
best
wait
to
till-
me because
They are.
you guys do amazing work, and it's hard work, and you've been stretched thin. So thank you.
Yeah, it's an amazing staff that, they really are an amazing staff. I couldn't ask for,
It's a great
yeah, the
I
department.
guess I have one last question or something that I wondered earlier. I definitely have a good concept in my mind of how an EL instructor helps out someone who's a Spanish English learner. I'm wondering now, there was a long list of what was Ukrainian, what else was there?
Malayalam.
Yeah, lots.
Arabic.
I'm just wondering, and Arabic, yeah,
Yeah.
we've talked about that person as well. I'm just wondering now, how does that EL person help someone who is, maybe a 1 or 2 representation as opposed to, more than 20?
We do a lot of visuals, and we use all this strategies that we were taught in our courses, how to best instruct students, and it really is a lot of it's like what we call total physical response, where you're acting, we're pointing, we're doing, and little by little they're starting to acquire. And actually, the growth that this child has made, didn't have a single word of English when he started, and today my colleague was not there, so I took him during that time, and he was working on a PBA. It was one sentence, so he was actually writing one sentence for each. A PBA, like his the
What is
performance-based
PBA?
assessment, a performance-based assessment. Yes, performance-based assessment. And
I use a lot of acronyms too, so I've gotten very good at calling those out.
Yeah.
And,
So-
My wife does that to me all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, thank you. I also appreciate the amount of time that goes into these types of presentations and putting it together and having a cohesive story. And I think it was very compelling for me. So it sounds like it was for all of us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
I wasn't going to before you mentioned. I know we wanted Alex to go before Ryan, just because Alex needs to
Yeah, I
get,
didn't
Alex
realize
needs to
she
get
was
home
gonna
to
be
her,
here.
her child
Yeah,
also.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But,
I didn't see her over there.
Yeah,
so
but I
it was-
wonder if we do want to move facilities to.
Yeah,
before
I don't think
Ryan
Ryan
is.
cares about our tax levy.
You sure you don't want to stay for the tax levy? It's really
I didn't
good.
think of that before, sorry.
You don't have anything to do tonight, right?
Yeah. I think that's probably.
You okay swapping? Okay.
Yeah, because we got school fees and I know.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so we're gonna pivot on the agenda here and go with Facilities Committee, which Joel Marhol is not present with us tonight due to a work commitment. So I'll invite Ryan Kelly from DLA up to, looks like this is mostly just Central Hauser, I think, so.
It's Central Hauser, and then there's the MOU for the Ames tuck pointing project
part of-
on here
okay.
also.
Okay.
Jim, do you want to come on up too, maybe, and you and Ryan both can? Jim can sit at the, Ryan, you're welcome to sit
Yeah,
at
if
the
you
table.
wanna-
Also.
you
That's
don't
our
have to
committee
stay
of
on
the
the
whole
whole time.
structure, so, yeah, yeah,
Relax.
yeah.
Thank you for having me this evening.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll let Jim talk about the MOUs first, and then I can talk a little bit about the Central Hauser playground equipment.
I'm not sure which one's listed first. When we have
Central Hauser.
the Central Hauser MOU, which is some of the work already taking place, but we haven't officially approved MOU. I don't know if there's any questions on it, but this is the project it goes to. The next one is the tuck pointing that we want to take care of at Ames this coming summer. And what's the third one?
Yeah, I think we talked about both of these projects. Central Hauser had
Those are
been
the two big
approved through schematic design. And then, as we're moving now to putting this project out to bid, we're submitting the second half of the MOU, if you will, to take it through construction, bidding, and then construction administration and completion. So that's what you'll see there. And then the Ames tuck pointing project was part of the long-range plan. We tackled Hollywood last summer, and so Ames was the next one up. And so that project is what you see in front of you. So that work is now set to go out to bid and would be completed in the summer of '24.
And that's here for discussion tonight and then approval at the December 20th board meeting.
Yeah.
Central's a little more elaborate because I think people did want to see the proposed options on the playground layout.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Well,
it,
and then,
part two.
so I think there were 3 different scenarios there, but I didn't see any kind of approximate price tag for.
So
all of them,
this
or-
would be, there are 3 different scenarios. So I'm here to kind of, on the playground portion of it, kind of close the loop with our visioning session. I think in that last board meeting with the one prior, we saw the video of the visioning sessions, which was hands down the best part of the planning process for this project. And so what we did is we took that information, we heard, themes like accessibility, inclusion, climbing, sliding, all of those things. We took that back to Imagination, which is our playground consultant that helped us with Ames and with Hollywood. And so we came up with 3 scenarios, 3 concepts, which you see in your board packet. And so we wanted to include all of the themes, and so you'll see that in the first 2 concepts. But what is also a premium, and we heard from the administration, is capacity. And so you'll see in that concept 3, that has the most capacity at 116 kids. The only thing that it doesn't have is the zip line, which we heard from the visioning group, but not quite as loudly. But it does definitely have accessibility. 4 pieces on that layout are accessible. I did meet with Pete Gatz, principal at Central, and he had met with his leadership team, and he said that their opinion was that capacity was really the most important thing to them. So all of them looked to serve the needs that were discussed at the visioning committee, or visioning process and meetings, but really that concept 3 was what stood out to them. So with that, I just really kind of wanted to share that information and close the loop. Again, as we're set to go out to bid, that's the equipment that we would include in the bid packet. So there's not a price tag attached to each one of those. It would be included in the overall project. So we'll receive those bids at the end of this month, and then that would be part of that total package.
So, yeah, I guess in the past, it seems like we've seen like good, better, best options, but that's not the case here. I mean, I'm just wondering.
Yeah, kind of a little bit of a different scenario. I know we looked at that with Hauser, kind of a good, better, best. I mean, we certainly have that here in terms of capacity. I don't think that, in terms of cost, that kind of equates here necessarily. So we were looking to really address the themes that we heard in the visioning, and then speak to the administration and what they were looking for in terms of capacity and functionality.
So is it up to the board to approve one of these 3 options? Or is this?
It sounds like,
Numbers.
you're saying all 3 out to bid, right?
No, so we have 3 options, and we can include any of these in the overall project. So the project is inclusive of not just the playground equipment, but all the site work, the field, all of that. So it would be included in that overall number. So I think that, again, I'm here to kind of close the loop. You certainly could, weigh in on what your preference is in terms of concept 1, 2, or 3, but did want to share with you the administration's feedback as well. So
I'm just trying to equate this to how it's worked in the past, because this is sort of just unique, and each project is unique and different, I guess, in its own way. What you'll approve will be the bids. So in terms of board action, you're going to approve the bid, but we're saying the bidders need to understand which playground they'd be building, because that's significant to the bid.
it is, yeah. I mean, they're all pretty similar. Again, this isn't approval of one concept or another necessarily. Again, it's feedback, but you would approve the bids for the overall project, which would include one of these three concepts.
And you're looking for guidance on which concept to put into the
Yeah.
bid docs.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Looking for guidance on which concept, just willing to weigh in on that and give some direction there. So wanted to share that they're reflective of what came out of the visioning process, and then also what the feedback has been from the administration, from both Central and then Hauser.
So has been shown to the administration?
Mhm.
And which ones did they?
Concept 3 seemed to be,
The highest capacity, I think, was,
Yeah.
they were saying
Yeah,
that's
I
their
mean,
priority.
my personal thought is, as much as I'd like to spend the days playing on the playground, I'm not going to. I'd say go with the administration. If that's what they're looking for, let's go to bid for that one.
I mean, it doesn't appear that, it looks like the only difference between 1 and 2 and 3 is that zip line
zip line.
doubles the capacity. Like, I don't think, I knew it took up a lot of space because we had that same conversation at the other two schools,
Right.
but I'm not sure I really appreciated how much space that
Yeah.
takes up.
and that was very loud at Ames and in
Yeah.
Hollywood. They wanted the zip line, and it made sense, the population-wise.
Yeah.
Here, space is constrained,
Mhm.
so its capacity seemed like it was the most important thing to them.
Yeah, I would be inclined to
Yeah.
agree with your comments. If the administration needs the capacity, that makes total sense, and the dual demographic, so to speak, here.
Are the areas covering, or is the swing area covered and this
And the musical
band
instruments,
area
yes,
covered?
correct.
Okay. And is coverage on playgrounds more typical now? Like
Do you mean like the
awnings over
The
the
awnings.
playground
Kids
equipment?
tell us they want shade. It's
Yeah.
very funny. And I'm
It's-
a big shade dweller. I really appreciate that.
It's funny. I've had this conversation with Mr. Gehrman here at Ames. It did not used to be, but it has become more and more a request and has become more standard in playground equipment. So we're seeing it more and more. So it's now integrated into the piece of equipment, whereas before it was not necessarily something you would add in after.
Is this something that we're potentially going to have approved by other governmental bodies? No.
No.
Okay.
No. Jill and I have made sure all of our approvals.
And what,
The
do-
WRD, I think, is the only one we still need, right?
They
Or we
they
need
can't comment on playground
Right,
equipment.
right. But as far as approval
I don't
go,
think.
it's their, they have to stamp the approval of our design. I
Of
think
the
that's
overall
only one we're
project,
waiting
and we
for,
are
right?
in
Yeah,
process with them,
yeah, okay.
to do that.
But no, playground equipment, this is,
I mean, there are standards to playground equipment, which we
Yes.
rely on DLA and their playground
Correct.
consultant to make sure that
And
all
all
of
of
that is
these,
appropriately
yeah,
addressed.
all of these address the age group that are at Central, the capacities generally, with the differences that we were looking for, the fall zones, all of those things are incorporated into each of these designs.
So perhaps we could use the roofs from Hauser to Central as a zip line.
There you go. Out of the box thinking.
that'd be a fun one. Any opinions from you?
I mean, to me, it's the people who are there every day and use it that should lay out.
And I'm just thinking like community-wise, because this is more than just about school. We've got a zip line at Ames, we've got a zip line at Hollywood.
Yeah.
We've got other playgrounds in town, so it's not like we're devoid of certain activities. It just might not be
Yeah.
immediately present in your recess space, so.
And I think the trade-off is really nice. The capacity increase is huge, a lot more accessibility with that third option. I don't think a big price difference we'll see, in the hard numbers, but I think it's a good concept for Central.
I wonder though, given the issues that we've had with the Ames playground, in terms of, extracurricular use or off-hours use, I'm wondering how, in these options, have we taken that into account? Is there a piece of equipment, perhaps it is a zip line, I'm not sure what's popular with it seems like it's high schoolers who are going there. Or
Various
I think
crowds.
they just like the open place. I think they like the space. I don't know that they're necessarily using the equipment so much. I don't think they're attracted to the equipment. I think they're attracted to the space.
It's more to hang out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Todd
and
over there.
we've talked about them here, and with Don, and with Chief Buckley, added cameras, adding cameras to the new site lighting at the parking lot. So all of those things are a constant work in progress. No silver bullet, if you will, to solve it, but, a continued effort. So.
Sounds like 3 is the winner, unless I'm missing something.
The one other thing that I would, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is this the coloring that the equipment is going to be?
No, the coloring is up for debate. We used, you're welcome to comment on the coloring.
I think it's bright. I think having something was a little bit more naturally toned would be.
Oh, you want the more natural tone? Oh,
what's
it's
that?
interesting. I feel like when we talked about Ames, people didn't like the natural tone. So that's an
Really?
interesting perspective.
Yeah.
So this was
That's
just a
a
first
personal preference.
pull some school colors into it, but no, this is not necessarily set in
Blue
stone.
would be appropriate for the Dolphins here. But
Yeah.
Red is Central's color.
Exactly.
True.
Yeah, red might be an eyesore.
We do red.
But then there are the natural tones, so, I mean,
Yeah. Do we need you don't need that level of detail yet, right?
No, but I'm.
Yeah, okay.
Curious,
I'm just
right.
making sure, like, that we can decide what actually goes in there later. You just need the general.
Jeff
Yeah,
providing a lot of
We have time
emphasis
for
on
that if
natural
you'd like
tones
to.
last time.
yeah, I think
Weigh
he
in on that.
I think he was a big natural tone fan.
I think that one child wanted pink and purple.
Yes, purple in particular. I was
What
looking
do
for
I
that
know?
purple marker.
The Wonka movie is coming out soon.
Yeah.
That would go.
Is the playground site option the only direction you needed from us tonight? Or is there-
One other thing that I did want to mention, and it is the baseball backstop. We
Yeah, okay.
shared all of this, the equipment, but the recreation space in general with both Central and Hauser. Hauser didn't necessarily have a comment on the playground equipment, but did have some input on the backstop. There was continual resounding voice that maximizing green space, maximizing space for PE was important to Hauser. There was a question of whether we had to do the backstop. We are approved to do it if we want to. We designed it that way because there is one.
Yep.
I know we heard from some of the community that they use it. We intend to stripe it for baseball. We could do a temporary backstop and not install a permanent one, which would, give some flexibility for green space. But I did want to just bring that up. We're going to include it in the project as an alternate. So you'll have the option to take it or leave it, depending on what, the feedback is. But just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that there's an option there.
Okay. So we don't need to decide that tonight. We
Don't
can
need to decide that tonight,
Okay.
but it is something that I know was discussed by the community, it was discussed by the board, so we didn't want to
Yeah.
unilaterally make a decision that everyone wasn't on board with.
Yeah.
And
And I-
staff, oh, go ahead.
No, good.
I was gonna say, staff also weighed in on that one, right? You had
Yeah.
feedback from Hauser staff that they would prefer not.
They would
to
prefer
have
not
it.
to have it and
Okay.
do something that's temporary that could be flexible and mobile.
How would temporary work? I
Temp-
didn't know that was a thing.
Well, you could do temporary, there are temporary backstops that aren't sleeved into the ground.
And you can actually move it? Like,
Yep.
just move it off to the side? Is it just on wheels or something?
Yep.
And we- Okay.
Yep. Same that we're actually proposing with the soccer. We're going to stripe for soccer,
Yep.
but there's mobile, foldable nets.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know, for some reason, that just conceptually seems easier, the soccer things, than
Well, it depends-
gigantic baseball backs.
well, it wouldn't
Batting
be
practice
a
Wrigley Field,
20-foot
they post those
backstop.
things on off
I'm not
all the
buying one of
time.
those. Those things are like $1 million.
Well, I'm not-
Yeah, the temporary would be a
It's
smaller
definitely-
scale.
As soon as you're talking about it, I'm thinking, oh yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, that's fair.
It just depends the level of baseball that's going to be played there. If it's going to be occasional recreational, maybe not a big deal. If it's league play, then maybe that's something different to consider.
Okay.
So,
When you say you're going to stripe for soccer and stripe for baseball, what do you mean by that? Because it's on natural grass.
It's going to look just like that, but paint.
yeah, I mean, paint it. Yeah, it's going to be an overlapping, one or the other will be played, but both, it'll be available for both. So when I say stripe, it means paint.
So the grass will be continually painted?
Mhm. I mean, that was the intent. And
Yeah.
we've done it elsewhere where it's a multi-use, multi-purpose field. So,
Okay.
How often do you do that? Like once a month? I mean, it probably just depends on how fast your grass
Yeah,
grows.
it depends on how often it gets used, how, you know.
Oh yeah, because the paint will probably come
Yep.
off with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Movable soccer goals, movable backstop, I'm sure would apply to the same. We actually have board policy on movable soccer goals, that they must be anchored. I think that came out of like an accident that had happened
sure.
years ago.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not here, but
That's how a lot of insurance
Yeah.
policies created too.
yeah, soccer goal safety, it's part of
Yeah.
board policy.
Oh, that's a specific one? I don't think
Or
we-
170,
we
I knew,
reviewed that
I was
one.
just looking it up to,
So we'll
Part of
probably
this
have to
board
update that
policy.
what's that?
Part
It-
of-
Right, it's part of this board's policy, but
Okay.
it comes from the Illinois School Board Association, so it's probably in every Board of Education's policy manual.
But it can be movable, it just, once it's
Has to be
placed, it needs
anchored.
to be anchored,
Oh,
so it
yeah.
doesn't
So it
fall.
can't be like the kind of thing that a child could,
Yeah, no,
Pull
it
over
is
on
anchored in
themselves.
place.
Because that's, I'm assuming that's standard safety procedure, I would
Yes,
hope?
yes.
Yeah, okay.
I would assume the same applies to backstop, that's all, we don't have a policy on
If
backstop.
not, can you write
Yes.
a policy?
Yeah,
for
yeah,
us?
exactly, exactly. Okay. I think, I mean, I know we don't have to decide it, but I wasn't thrilled with the permanent backstop, but there already was one, so I was just gonna deal with it. But if we
Mhm.
can have an option and everybody else prefers it, I would prefer that too. So, okay, it's good to know we have options there.
Again, just wanted to come back to you guys with information and close the loop.
And I guess knowing that the Park District uses that field on
Yeah.
weekends, I guess we'd have to make sure there was coordination there so that
Mm.
if there's a Little League game there, that they have the backstop in place as opposed to playing without one.
Is that something we could coordinate with like grounds crew?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll want to learn how to attach it themselves. And,
Yep.
Yeah.
Or do we just like standard practice, put it up after school on Friday and take it down Monday morning? Or I don't know, we can figure that
Right,
out
yeah,
later.
yeah,
But
we'll have to work
that's a
that
good
out,
call though. I keep forgetting about that.
Is it consistently used as a Little League field? Do
Well, I
we-
don't think so
Yeah.
right now,
Yeah,
because
spring
it's
summer.
terrible. 'Cause I think they use it for,
Or is
like
it
super
intended to be
juniors,
used that
but
way?
I would imagine if it's brand new, they
Yeah.
probably would
Use it.
start using it more.
Okay.
Didn't we have, I don't
Usually
remember
it's
who
contract in
runs
place.
it, but didn't somebody,
And I guess
Thought
it's not
we-
Park District, it's Little League.
yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
Riverside or something, but
Yeah.
didn't somebody come and ask about, because with all the construction, they were like, where are we gonna play our games
Right,
or
they-
something, right? And-
Well, we let
We
them know
just-
that they couldn't use it
Yeah.
until it's ready.
So, yeah, I
and-
think-
And that we hadn't decided whether they could use
Right.
it.
So yeah, I
Because I know
think
we're
it
trying to
gets
grow
some
grass,
regular
so-
use, but I
Okay.
mean, that season's not very long, I don't think, is it? It's been a while since I've,
The,
Had a kid
I
in
can't
it.
remember the terminology, but
3
no,
months?
it's like maybe 5 or 6 weeks at most for the super youngsters, for the 4 and 5-year-olds.
Yeah.
But again, it's because the field's terrible. If it
Right.
were better, I wouldn't
You
be.
might get more,
It would,
yeah.
yeah, I would bet some would start to trickle over.
so we'll figure that out.
And our custodial staff works 12 months, and, so
Yeah.
it's something that could be addressed.
Cool. All right. Option 3, we'll figure out the backstop later.
Okay.
Number 2 here, all that was just informational about the square footage and student
Yeah, that
capacity
was
and kind of
something
stuff.
that was really for the administration.
Yeah,
As
okay.
we move through construction, what kind of space they'd have available.
Okay.
Thank you.
I actually had questions about the Ames project, so I know, sorry, this was probably the afterthought.
No, go ahead.
I did wonder, well, given that we've had some neighbor issues with the playground here, is this an opportunity is there anything that could be fixed? Or, because it seems like there was a lot of unexpected, it was unexpected, I guess, by the neighbor, and we were having issues with that neighbor and with the playgrounds close together. I didn't know if that was a question that got put out. Is there anything that can be done to help that situation that could be rolled into this project, or is that appropriate?
I mean, I would defer to Jim, because you hear about it more often than I, but
I haven't heard it in a while.
Mhm.
I'm not sure what contractor that does tuck pointing could do.
Mhm.
You're not talking about are you talking about the tuck pointing? You're talking about the neighbors
Well, I'm
being
saying
concerned
if,
about the tuck
if we're
pointing or
doing a
the-
maintenance project on Ames, I
okay,
guess it was
yeah.
more of a
I
general
think
thought.
so.
No, I doubt the tuck pointer could do something
Yeah.
to
We
to
could-
fix that, but
We're gonna
it was
try
just a general question. I guess along similar lines, there was a neighbor who asked once about it was an air conditioning unit on the older part of the building. Could that be obscured?
I mean, I think, from my point of view, the fence was a big help, but
Mhm.
I don't know if we've gotten any more
Since the fence went up, I haven't heard anything.
So I think that was a big effort on the school board's part to be a good neighbor and provide that screening that they were asking for. So I don't, beyond that, short of taking down the tallest structure, I think.
Definitely wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
No, but I think the fence it seems like a good solution to hear them and provide a solution.
I'm confused. You're talking about, I just wanted to clarify, you're talking about the neighbors when we built the playground, but there's also the neighbors when we're going to be tuck pointing. Because you're right, at Ames, there's neighbors right around the school, whereas when we've tuck pointed, like at Hollywood, there's no neighbors right there. Are you talking about the tuck neighbors and the tuck pointing, or neighbors in the playground?
Two different neighbors. I guess one neighbor with the playground, and there was another neighbor who commented when we did this overall modernization project about asking, I think there, with the new air conditioners had obscure,
like a
some
slat
kind of
thing.
thing to cover it up. There's an older air conditioner that's older than I am, I think, that he was saying, well, why can't you cover that up too? And the answer was, well, we never thought of it.
Well, I think probably when that was installed, it wasn't a requirement. It wasn't.
Sure, definitely.
I don't know that it was. You had tall enough screens to cover it. I don't know exactly where it is on the maintenance cycle, but when that comes due, that's definitely something, as we did on the addition, that we would look at screening that. That unit, I agree, is not great to look at, but it's large enough that a screen to cover it might be worse than the unit itself. But I would say, I would think that'd definitely be part of the long-range plan to screen a new unit.
Is that maintenance cycle going to be a replacement of that unit, Jim, or do we still have life on that thing? Do we know?
I don't know where it is on that, but
Okay.
I can find out.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think the boilers are before
Right.
that unit, but
Okay.
We have a few years, at least.
And there was a note on here that you need approval on this, on the tuck pointing to keep it on schedule, so I'm assuming Martha will
we can
be putting this on the, or Jim.
Right,
will be
on the
putting this on
December
next-
meeting, yeah.
Okay. Alright. And I had to drop some stuff off here today, so I saw all the people taking their pictures and all that kind of stuff, so hopefully we get some good bids back. Anything else you need?
Nope.
Any other questions from you all? All right, thank you,
Thank
Ryan.
you.
Safe
Thanks.
trip home.
appreciate it. Thanks. Thank you.
All right, now we will jump back to facilities. So,
To finance.
I'm sorry, finance. So Dave Bersani, would you like to take it over?
So I'm going to we've had some discussions about the tax levy, but I'm going to just turn that over to Jim to talk about that.
So let's talk about the tax levy.
Yes.
I have
I
nothing
think that's going to
changed.
be the easy one to talk about.
Nothing's changed since the last time we talked about it, and inflation was 7%, and we're asking for the maximum of 5%, so we can keep up with increasing costs. And we put the ad in the paper, so, and the hearing will be December 20th, and then we'll have the board vote on it later in the meeting.
Any questions regarding this?
I did get one more month of CPI, so through November, we're still at 3.6 for this year, so it may end up right there, where it had been closer to 7 the last couple of things. So get a little better.
And since that's an annual cap, there's no makeup for that.
Right.
Okay.
What's the lock-in? Is it 12/31 or is it some random day in June,
It's
December?
12/31, it's that
12/31.
exact number, so it could go down even,
And is whatever that day
yeah,
the CPI
versus
is?
the year before.
Yeah, okay. So hopefully it keeps trending down, I guess, and then doesn't go back up again. Questions? Nope, all right.
Okay, school fees. So we've had a lot of discussion about this. I did meet with the
PLT.
PLT, thank you.
Parent Leadership Team.
Yes. And there was general consensus that like the schools, like the parent provided supplies are not many people like doing that, but the summary of the discussion was, we asked that question, would people like it, be neutral about it, or not like the idea? And the majority said it would probably be neutral, or people would like it. So it goes back to this thing of sort of leveling out the fees, which I think we all agreed on. But then what about the parents' provided supplies? Do we roll those up into it? And there's been some discussion, and I sort of just going to throw it out here, there's been some discussions like, well, people still want to go buy like the sort of the personalized stuff, like the pencils or what have you, but the folders, like, because I did ask that question, Angela, I did ask the question, like, why do we have like yellow folders, green folders? It's for like, I know you explained it to me, but it was like executive
It's for executive
Yeah, so-
functioning. At the elementary level, each folder represents, each color represents a certain subject, and it carries over to Hauser, same color, same subjects, and then it carries to RB.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's
Thought
significant.
that.
And the parents too,
That
because
makes
I've gotten some of the colors memorized now.
And we did ask the
Woman that gotta work.
PLTs, the PTA, because the PLT is made up of the PTA and PTO presidents. We did ask them to go back and just try to gather information from their members, because the, 5 people in the room essentially had their own opinions, but we were asking to gather
And
more.
Martha, I
opinions.
think you expressed something the last time around that, I think you'd said that if we would to implement this, we would be an outlier, that this is not something many other districts do at present.
I mean,
was
we
I
haven't
correct
done
with
an
that?
in-depth investigation, but I don't think it's common.
Mhm.
Just even talking to sort of where other people have worked, and I'll tell you today, not to steal your thunder, Jim, our leadership team talked about it. They also feel that there's a lot of logistics to then distributing school supplies to some sort of preferred personal items, so to speak.
And the list I got, it's a little complicated too. There's the box of supplies you pay for, and then there's things you can add to it, like they need the special calculator. And so it seems like maybe we could cut the list back down, like maybe there's some things on the list that the district really should supply or does anyway in other ways, and just always be editing that list. I think that might be the best.
Definitely,
compromise.
there's some things that I've seen that it seems like they were put on a list, and they'll
Never
stay
come
there
off.
for 10 or 15 years sometimes, until that teacher retires.
Right.
So I guess this is the way I'm looking at it, and this is from a parent perspective, is I think, and I guess from a board, I think this, from my personal opinion, I think we should be providing the supplies that are going to be sort of mandated, like the folders. If we're all like having to get the right color folders, let's make sure we get the right color, let's make sure every grade has the same color, because there's varying types of yellow. Don't ask me the types of yellow, but I know there's varying types of yellow, there's varying types of reds, varying types of blues. Let's just get the same color so everyone has the same color, so it's universal. I guess in regards to, the one thing that I find, I think, at least I know is frustrating, is like, once teacher wants like two Kleenex boxes, another one wants just one, another wants 3. That, I do still feel that schools should be providing that. And I don't think it should be up to the parents to provide communal supplies for the school, especially when it's going to be used communally. But I do think if like parents want to go buy a special backpack or special pens or special pencils, go to it. I mean, I could easily see giving up on that, but not the stuff that's sort of mandated or not mandated, but sort of required for the educational purposes here.
What would the logistical
Yeah,
challenges
and that's
be?
a good question.
Just distributing, like if you're supposed to have, 6 black pens and 3 red pens,
If they all came into the office, then
So
Why don't you just grab a box of pens and take
yeah.
it back to your
So
room?
let me sort of challenge that.
yeah, go ahead.
How is that any different than logistically having 20 kindergartners bring in boxes that they somehow have to store and then logistically go get themselves?
Have you done drop off?
Yeah, they bring it.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
But what do you
It
do?
comes in and-
Yeah, but what do you drop it off, but then where does it go? I mean, then
Oh,
you know what I'm
where you
saying?
put
Put
it.
your Ziploc bags over here, you put your glue sticks over here.
But after you put it
your-
in the box, where did the teacher put it?
Right.
They probably put it in there,
They
whatever.
store it,
so
yeah,
it's-
and then they pull out when they need it. To me, like the consumable stuff, like the tissues, the bleach wipes, are we still doing that? I can't remember.
Chloride swipes.
We might be. Even the, what did I just say? Ziploc bags. Like, I mean, I know we buy those things, like we buy Ziploc bags in huge amounts because we use them for a lot of skills labs and stuff. I mean, probably could get it cheaper when you're buying them in huge bulk than.
Right.
I mean, I take
Yeah.
it right out of my Costco supply.
Right. I was just gonna say
But-
Costco.
Yeah.
And every classroom would use the same Ziplocs, it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
6 blue pencils here, and you have to
Right.
really divide everything up.
Right.
Just send me a box full of
Right.
Ziploc bags.
Right.
We do that with other things now, actually with some Kleenex too, so.
Yeah.
I mean, that was kind of what I was imagining is like, not that it was work out this way, but here's a pallet of Kleenexes.
Yeah.
Take what you need, and
And
right.
there's
and-
not, this box has to go there, and this box has to
Yeah.
go. Yeah, it's all
Yeah,
generic.
some of those are not personal. I mean, I'm trying to think, like, I appreciate what you're saying. If science is yellow, and I don't know which one is yellow, then does the science teacher just have a pack of yellow folders?
Your
And
folder in this class.
get one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we could do better with it from what I'm hearing. I don't know that we want to eliminate it, but.
Yeah.
I think the other-
Folders are the most satisfying thing to buy, because they're usually cheap at Walmart, like 33 cents. You
dollar.
can buy it for less
Target
than
brand ones are
$1.
like a quarter.
I love that.
Dan will help you with the purchasing.
The other thing that I will say came up from the leadership team is just, or is it a way of being much more explicit about how to provide school supplies to our children that qualify for free and reduced lunch? Because there's all these other ways we do fee assistance with lunch, with field trips, with pretty much everything, but not school supplies, interestingly, right? So I think this has brought something very important to light. Is that a better option? Because the other thing I think we learned from the PLT is that some of these school supply kits are $175 or something. I mean, so they're expensive, but also for the district to take it on, there's certainly added expense there too. That's
Right.
well worth considering.
Yeah, I'm sure we can make sure people are aware of the discounts if they qualify for it.
Right, I mean, and I guess the thing is, we would then we can incorporate it into the school fees as well. I mean, obviously, we're still not going to, it won't be 100%, but like I said, we're going back to the school fees is, we know what the school's fees are, we've tied it to the consumables for the classroom. We just need to decide what percentage do we want to charge of the school fees
Yeah.
of that per student.
Well, I could see, and a better argument can be made in my mind for consumables for common supplies as opposed to things like, the kid's folder or pencil box or anything that's going to be individualized. You're going to have a lot of kids, even if the school issues it, they're going to say, no, I don't want that one, I want this one.
But I guess in regards to folders, there doesn't seem to be too much individualization.
Yeah, sure, anything that's, I love buying them, I just mentioned that, but, but aside from that, yeah, anything that's standardized, that's, going to be the same no matter what, then yes, that could be made sense, that could make sense. But anything, like I said, like a kid's pencil case or their paper folders, anything like that, there's going to be a lot of kids who want an individual choice on that, I would expect.
So we do not have, I remember we talking about this last time, there is no standardized classroom wish list, right? Every teacher comes up with their own stuff, so every single classroom is going to be slightly different.
I think
It's
it's by grade.
grade level
grade?
and
Okay.
school. And we did have a conversation about that. There have been attempts in the past to unify the list, like that every fourth grade teacher should be asking for the same. Fourth grade teachers, there's just some, I'm not picking on fourth grade. but
Right.
People are going to decide that there's things they want for the way they,
All right, I'll take these things I don't want, just so we have the same.
like
list.
Angela used the example, like some teachers want kids to bring in a deck of playing cards for some math games and activities. It's a small example, but it's an example of where we've tried to unify. Teachers still have some preferences for what they would like parents to be bringing in for the students.
See, but I guess sort of in regards to that again goes back to if the teacher wants playing cards, because I mean, that's how I've taught my kids math. I taught them blackjack. They know they're actually pretty good at blackjack. But that's how I taught them math. I mean, if they want that, the school should buy it. The teacher should just come say, Martha or Pete, I need a deck of cards because this is what I want to do. It's like, okay. Don't make, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, we could.
I think in the last time we talked about this, I argued pretty strongly in favor of having the school sort of absorb the duty of providing school supplies, because like there was just like cost scale efficiencies and time efficiencies, and but I think that like as I went out into the community and got feedback on this, I gained an appreciation for people liking the ability to have choice. And I consider myself a person who is very supportive of people having choice and in what they purchase, and so I think I've sort of switched actually. I think that while I think that some of these like standard consumables like Kleenex and pencils I consider like a standard consumable, but other people might, have fancier standards than I do of pencils. But I think that like there should be some consumables that are absorbed by the school. So I'm kind of like more of like a let's pick up some of it, but let's leave there to be some list to be purchased by the parents.
Yeah,
I would honestly say there's a wide range in pencils, but I want to.
I feel like on the list
I know. I'm just saying, as a person who does this and I think about it, it's like, well, you got your made in China stuff, or you have the stuff made in Germany.
They want
and in
Ticonderoga,
Yeah.
pre-sharpened pencils.
But Ticonderoga's on the list.
That's what's on the list. That's what you get.
It's if the school district takes this on, something like as simple as pencils, where you think, well, sure, just get the cheapest. There are going to be some people, myself included, who wouldn't be happy with the cheapest if they ever found out about it.
I buy the brand that they tell me to buy.
Right, and I guess sort of to Selena's point, that's I guess maybe sort of that's sort of where I'm leaning, is like, where the stuff that are standard, let's get that. But I guess let the parents, like, if they go buy some certain school supplies. But I guess the thing is, what I would like to do is sort of get more uniformity between the grades, because I don't think like one school, like, and I don't know this, I'm just like, but like Hollywood might have like one that costs 150, Ames might have one that costs 100, like for this, like, not to pick on the fourth grade, but we'll say for like fourth grade. There needs to be some sort of uniformity. And I, to your point of like choice, I don't think we should say, go get like the Kleenex brand or Puff's Kleenex brand or
with lotion.
With lotion, right? I mean, I think I think we need to just sort of say we need like these Kleenexes and just let people go get them.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, because I don't think the parents should be buying Kleenexes, but like you need a dozen pencils. Go buy a dozen pencils.
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying too, Dan. But I think if these are all shared classroom supplies, so if I buy 10 boxes of the cheap stuff and you buy 10 boxes of the good stuff, your kid is going to use my cheap stuff at some point, whether you like it or not. So I don't care. I could go either way on this. I really have no preference. I buy the box and I have it shipped to my house. So this feels convenient. That feels convenient. So I don't have a strong preference one way or the other. But if we're going to buy 100,000 of something, we might as well buy 100,000 instead of having 100,000 people buy one, because you will get the scale. So I hear what you're saying. I don't have a strong opinion. God, I hate to do this because of what I said last meeting. Do we need more time to study this? Like, that feels like a dumb thing to say, but just with like, what I don't want to do is rush into something and then there's this big backlash that we weren't prepared for. So
this would be my suggestion. Let's maybe talk about school supplies and sort of get a little bit more feedback. Let's get a little bit more feedback. Let's wait for the PLT to come back and see what they found out from their members.
Are they doing? Yeah, they're going to do actual outreach.
Yeah.
They said they would. I mean, yeah.
And let's see what we get back from them. I guess the bigger thing that I want to sort of talk about, though, is the actual fees themselves.
Yeah.
And so do you think we can come up with an idea of what we want those fees to be?
Anything's possible, Dave.
So I guess the thing is, and I'm looking at it just right now, and I don't see sort of the breakdown of So percentage by the student, or maybe I did.
Oh, percentage? No, I didn't see a percentage.
Yeah, I didn't see this in this pack either. But I guess percentage-wise, I know it's not in this one. I know it's in the last one.
Elementary school is about 50%, and junior high is about 80% of
Okay.
what we worked out for the cost.
So if we can maybe make, I'd like to do is, if we can come up with a percentage of the consumables, whatever they may be, of that we're gonna charge the grade levels, junior high and grade school. And sort of with the idea that we're just gonna level it out across, by junior high, be it by grade school and junior high.
To say that a different way, are you suggesting figure out which percentage we want to charge?
Right, and I think the percentage should be the same,
Yeah, so if we're gonna charge 75%, it's just 75%.
5%
Yeah,
across the board.
and then the district will cover the other 25.
Right.
And I'm, part of the reason I don't care, and I think it does make sense, I can appreciate why it doesn't make sense for some people with the parent supplies. I mean, a lot of these supplies and the consumables, we are buying 50% of them,
Mhm.
and then the parents are buying the other 50%. So if we just
Right.
level it out, like, conceptually, that makes sense to me, but I think that, yeah, so do you have a proposal on what that is? When we're at 50 and 80, is there somewhere in between that you're thinking, or should we go to 80, should we go to 50?
You know, I'm sort of, I mean, the whole thing of like school flat, I think something should be paid. I think from a philosophical standpoint, I think 50, if we just split it 50-50, I think that's a fair amount.
So essentially, same for K-5, and it would be a fee reduction for 6-8 then, essentially.
Right,
from
so
what we're at today.
Jim, because I don't have that spreadsheet in front of me here, or those numbers in front of me, I think it was, in order to get to keep the sort of revenue neutral, it was 60 and 80, right, or, I don't,
Yes, so
65%?
There is something to be said for if you're hitting people when they're first have their kids in school. I guess if you're hitting them with a lot of fees right off the top of the bat, because right now those are the lowest. I mean, that'll hit them harder just because they're not used to paying it, whereas opposed to the kids who are in Hauser, they better be getting ready for RB fees.
Yeah.
And I guess,
I think that's a good point, and not everyone in our community attends preschool, but most people, or a lot of people, I think, are used to paying some fee for a preschool program, so it's not as,
right.
I know for
Well,
us,
the
it was a lot.
preschool
it was a lot
program
more
is a
affordable.
tuition.
Yeah,
Right,
tuition.
right.
Tuition,
It's
right,
exempt,
yeah,
But there
I
is a
think
pre-K
parents look at it kind of
fee of
similarly.
$85 that we
Right.
charged in 2022. That's gonna go up to 110 in 2025. if I'm
If
reading
we
this
combine
correctly.
them with what we pay out is about $235 per student. If we,
Who
you know
pays
how we
out?
lumped all elementary together and
Yeah.
came up with one, but if we put all 8 or 9 grades together to get the same revenue, or at the same cost per student is $235.
But we really can't make any kind of definite calculations here until we decide whether or not we're going to lump the school supplies into this.
Right, the actual fee,
That-
you're absolutely right. The actual fee,
That comes first.
yeah, well, the fee comes first. I guess what I'm asking for is, can we come up with at least a decision on the percentage? So if it's hypothetically $500 per student, 250 is going to be charged in school fees. Or if it's $400.
I see what you're saying.
It's
It's
like-
just we're not going to have any way to compare whether or not it's going to be revenue neutral because we don't
Exactly.
really know what the fee
And if we wanna
collection is
wait
gonna
until-
be, 'cause
right.
we don't know what the all-in consumable fee is
Yeah.
going to be for the district.
Right. I mean, the best we can go off right now is what our current expenditures are. I mean, and we can hold off on the discussion and get back and come up with a decision on whether or not, what school fees we're going to be include, if we're going to include school fees, and then come up with a number, come up with a percentage at that time to determine our revenue.
What if we came up with a percentage of the numbers as they are, knowing that we might be moving some more into it?
Right. I mean,
If we paid I mean, if we kept them the way they were, and then we're just gonna absorb difference of some of these things that
Yeah.
parents move by.
And to your point, Selena, I mean, I do think you remember, you're right, it's about 65%. I mean, if we want, I'm fine with keeping it 65%, 65, 35.
And that would be, I don't know why I'm confused, but I feel confused. So 65% of just whatever the dollar amount we determine?
Of the cost.
So
the cost.
currently,
The
we
budget
charge, we have a,
Right, so up at the top, so currently, for Hauser, the budget is 150, just over $150,000.
yeah,
So that'd be 150,000, and it comes out to $257 per student. 65% of that is, I can't do my math in my head, but we charge 65% of $257.
So we,
I would
65%
just
of
say, as a
250.
fairly recent kindergarten parent, if that's the first kid I've ever had in school and I'm paying 65%, and I can't do the math in my head either, 65% of 250, which is seeming like it's gonna, probably be north of 150, that's gonna hit me pretty hard.
Not if you're also buying the
165.
parent, if you're not buying the parent packet anymore. I guess, I can appreciate your point, but I guess I mean, I guess for me, then it goes back to do we
Well,
want?
I guess also I don't know the parent packet for a kindergartner is gonna be a lot smaller than for a fifth grader, I would imagine.
I get,
Both this year, that's true.
They're all on the website if you'd like to
Yeah,
look.
I
bunch
guess-
of garbage
right.
every single year.
yeah, I guess
No.
it's the cost that we have to pay, so,
I guess I was gonna say, like, would a kindergarten parent even know any different?
yeah, I mean,
Like, oh, I guess I
No.
make
And-
it, cool, I gotta pay
Right.
money.
Currently, isn't it structured right now, the school fees are
Yeah.
less?
It is, but if you have never put a kid in school, you're not looking at what these
Only
fees
taking
are. So I
fees.
think her point is, if it's the first time, you're just going, that's the fee, not, oh, the fee went up. You might go, it's high, but you're not gonna know the difference.
right.
A
and I
first
can-
grade parent that's paying 100 and now we're charging them 200, they're gonna feel it, or
Yeah.
110. But that's how I was thinking about it, is if I'm paying a $110 fee and then I'm buying a $100 box, or I have a $257 cost that I'm paying 65% of, I'm actually netting less cost there.
Right. And I guess the way I'm looking at this too is like, to your point, Dan, last year I sent my daughter off to high school for the first time. I'll tell you what, we could charge far more and I still wouldn't prepare me for what the fees I paid for it at
Yes.
RB, so,
He wallops you.
yeah.
Conceptually, I think I'm just getting lost in the dollar figures because those are open depending on what we do. But I think if I'm following correctly, just whatever that per student cost is, we charge 65% of that as a fee. Whatever that cost is needs to be determined, but once we get the dollar amount, because I think what you're saying is, like, right now, Jim, it's 150, 225 for Hauser, which based on our student population works out to $257 a student.
Right.
That's what's currently in our operating budget and the tax levy budget stuff we
right.
just, okay. So now, 257 times 65% is whatever. And then the parent supply list is a TBD. And if we decide to take on that cost, let's just assume it's $100 per student times 1,700 students. That now goes into our operating budget, but we're gonna charge 65% of that as a fee. That's gonna be included in our fees. So let's say the 250 goes up to 350, and then we charge 65% of 350 for everybody flat across the board.
Exactly.
Okay. I feel less confused. I hope everybody else is less confused. Okay. I may have been the only one confused. That's okay. I'm good with that philosophy. I think I just don't want to rush into this parent supply thing because you're kind of switching your mindset maybe. I don't have a strong opinion. You two would like to buy your own. You want it included. We're all kind of all over the
Yeah,
place.
I mean, I just don't like, Dan, I'm sorry, I just do not like buying.
Oh, you don't have to
I
apologize.
hate that.
Maybe Dan
Give me $25 next year, maybe I'll get some for
You know, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll outsource that to you.
I'll buy extras. But, well, I guess, and this is totally hypothetical, but in my mind too, I am somewhat concerned that because, well, first off, I think the parents will know, even if it's a brand new kindergarten parent, they're gonna know from their friends or from their neighbors.
Sure.
that
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
While these things went up.
Yeah.
But I guess if we're talking about, 65 of 100, so that's 65 more, that feels a lot more real to me if I'm putting that on my credit card and I see that number directly
Sure.
there than it does when I'm paying $2.50 for a box of markers and $1 for a roll of towels, you know, things like that. That it just in my mind, I'm thinking that that number they're seeing when they're paying the school fees is going to wallop them harder than when they're going to Walmart or Target or any other place like that to get
Yeah.
the little stuff that adds up.
Yeah. All right, so you've got whatever the acronym is, getting feedback, parent leadership team, PLT, getting feedback from parents. You've gotten a little bit. I haven't done a very good job of getting my own. None of this stuff goes into effect until registration next year anyway, right? So not that I want to talk about it for the rest of the school year, but
Registration will start in April, right,
April.
is when we do
So
our.
maybe we can set as a goal for the board, maybe we just wrap this up by January.
by January? Ooh, that feels fast. Yeah, I
I know,
think
for
that-
us, it does, but I mean, it's a stretch goal, it's a stretch goal.
And, yeah, the January regular meeting?
Yeah.
Okay,
At the next meeting, we want to get approval on the tuition for early childhood.
Yeah.
So we'll break that out
Okay.
separate.
Right, yeah, we're only talking the fees, we're not talking the tuition.
Yeah, so
Tuition we
I'll make that a separate.
Right.
I think
memo.
I have that in my notes.
I guess, is there any concerns or questions about the tuition? Or is that,
I don't have any.
okay.
And if I remember correctly, we just sort of look at whatever the net neutral market rate is because we're not trying to be super cheap and we're not trying to be expensive and make money off of it. We're just trying to provide an option that's balanced with our other childcare
Yep.
partners. Okay. Okay, so we're making progress. That's good. And we will, I guess, so then, do you want to bring the PLT feedback to the January cow?
Yeah.
There will be no January cow.
You're right.
Mhm.
So
So
I don't think we're
January
gonna get
board.
this done by January.
I'm still optimistic.
Okay,
Give us a reason to
How-
come to these meetings in February. That's the toughest month to make it here.
yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm not gonna be at the cow in February, so I'm gonna try to be here remotely, but I'm not.
You just set a dedeline and now you're not even gonna be.
Do you want there to
doing
be a
No,
reg-
the deadline was in January, but now you pushed it.
Okay,
to
fair.
January.
That's right. I was at
Martha,
Disney
do you have
World
any
in,
sense of when that,
Dayton.
well, the feedback probably won't come until your next PLT meeting, right?
Which we have one on December 22nd, actually.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So we
Yeah,
could bring
I
it
wasn't
to
sure why we
the,
did that, but yeah.
oh, wait, no, that's 2 days after our meeting, right? So I suppose we could just put it on the January regular meeting and hopefully we have enough info, and if we don't, I guess we just
I mean,
don't
we
vote on
yeah,
it.
I mean, we could just, I mean, we could put it in February. I mean,
Look, I think shooting for January is fine. I think all of us have enough I think we've talked about it enough. We have general opinions, and it's just the little bits of information that we would like to make a decision, but I would think we could theoretically put it on the January agenda, regular agenda, and vote on it, or not vote on it. It's not like it's a talk about it today and vote on it today. We've been talking about this for years, months, for some of us.
It just seems like years.
Yeah. That's fine. Why don't we target that? Let's-
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Try
All
for
right.
January.
We'll see if we can make it happen.
okay, all right.
You good with whatever you need, Jim and Dave?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. Okay, and that was it for finance. So, Ms. Gunn's not here for policy. I think we have a press coming out.
And we're gonna
From
put
the
it on
note
the
that I
regular
saw.
December agenda, the December 20th agenda, just because without a January cow, it's just kind of how the training and
Yep.
the updates fell.
Okay, so have that to look forward to in 2 weeks. And then Personnel Committee, Mr. Hunt, Ms. Klaus.
We actually
anything?
did have a meeting not long after our last meeting. It took me a while to remember that, because I was coming here thinking, no, we didn't have a meeting, but we did. I guess we talked mostly about the things we talked about earlier about the EL teacher position and among other things.
Okay. Nothing for discussion tonight, I'm assuming then?
No.
Okay. And I'm guessing no additional public or any public comment? Okay, that brings us to future meeting dates. Our next regular meeting, as stated, is 2 weeks from now, December 20th, 2023. That'll be our regular business meeting at 7 p.m. in the Hauser Learning Resource Center. The January 3rd Committee of the Whole meeting will be canceled due to the holidays, and January 17th, we will have, in 2024, we will have a regular business meeting at 7 p.m. in the Hauser Learning Resource Center. We have no closed session needs tonight, so this meeting is adjourned.